Thank you very much. I thank the Energy and Commerce Committee for having this hearing. And while in Texas, if you're around Representative Pfluger and Representative Weber and Representative Burgess and Representative Crenshaw, you hear a lot and have had the pleasure of hearing how everything is bigger and better in Texas in every way that you can imagine. However, let me say that I grew up in Texas around San Antonio. Started at San Antonio Junior College at 16, enlisted in San Antonio, have all my education from San Antonio, but I realized I was threatening the reputation of Texas, that it's bigger, and so I went to a smaller state. In the spirit of qualifying the states we represent, Representative Peters mentioned solar in California, and McMorris-Rogers mentioned hydropower. So I just want to take the opportunity to say that that smaller state that I moved to, Iowa, has 50% of its energy from renewables. And we are an energy exporter, so Iowa's an energy state along with Texas. But also that Iowa has 50% of its energy, over 50% electricity is generated from wind power, Representative Pfluger. But I will give Texas credit because overall does produce the most wind power of all states. It's also the top crude oil and natural gas producing state in the nation, and we've learned how important that production is to both the state and to Midland in particular. And as states increasingly depend on non-dispatchable resources such as wind, we need strong natural gas supply and deliverability. Why? For 2021, the U.S. Energy Information Administration reported that total U.S. primary energy consumption was equal to, anybody have a guesstimate? 97 quadrillion BTUs. And how much of that was from renewables such as wind and solar? 12.5%. How much from natural gas? 32%. And we know, having gone to both COP26 and COP27, everyone around the globe acknowledges that energy demand, global energy demand, is increasing despite advances in energy efficiency. Mr. Savada, you mentioned health risk associated with the oil and gas operations and also from climate change. But are you aware how many people perish from colder heat exposure each year?
Not offhand, no.
Lancet and Wall Street Journal articles in 2021 indicated exposure to hot or cold temperatures is associated with over 5 million premature deaths globally each year. Heat deaths account for 1% of global fatalities, about 600,000, but cold kills 8 times as many people, 4.5 million annually. A study by the National Bureau on Economic Research in March of 2019 estimates that by driving down natural gas prices, not only did that help Midland, but by driving down natural gas prices, the fracking revolution saved more than 11,000 American lives annually from 2010. 11,000 lives saved by what you do here in Midland, Texas. The best way to protect people from heat and cold excess mortality deaths is access to plentiful, cheap energy, and that often means carbon-based fuels. Mr. Pruitt, can you speak to how a strong oil and gas industry is necessary to support other sources of energy, including Texas and Iowa wind?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, the components of the renewable machines, whether it's the massive wind turbines that you've all seen that populate West Texas and the Panhandle, or solar panels, or the wires that are built to transmit remote renewables to consuming markets like the San Antonio area where you hail from, or from the Panhandle to DFW, petroleum is critical in all of that. And without this idea that the world can survive on renewables without petroleum is just unrealistic, as Dr. Zavada said, because of the components that go to make it and the enabling of those, the construction of and the management operation of renewables is tied to petroleum. And the density of it and the use of petroleum in transportation fuels also cannot be ignored.
Thank you. And we discussed the topic of federal permitting reform. For me, both permitting reform for oil and gas projects and permitting reform for transmission come to mind. And we must find a better balance between energy project development and environmental goals, and I think that we can do both of those. Not lessen environmental standards, but provide greater certainty and predictability to permitting efforts. Because my time is running out, Mr. Chair, I would ask, the question I want to ask of our panel is if they can speak to the challenges that exploration and production companies have faced with respect to permitting and what reforms may be helpful at the federal level, if they could submit that in writing, and then I will yield my time.